Welcome everyone to Tm1 Social's first webinar. It's great to have you all here, and shortly Bashan is going to showcase how the team at Uber convert monthly forecast systematically and reach their weekly forecast using data science and Tm1 calculations. So super pumped about this demonstration. Here's some great things about it. So very excited indeed to hear all about that. Before we get there, a couple of things. As you've noticed, we've turned everyone's mics and videos off just for the smooth running of this this presentation, this webinar. Sorry about that. Secondly, we will be running a Q&A at the end of it. So there is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. If you've got any questions at all throughout the presentation, please put them in there. That's running on an upvote system. So if you like some of the other questions that you're seeing, please vote for it. We'll make sure that we try and answer the popular stuff, and anything that doesn't get answered, apologies. However, there will be an opportunity after the fact. If you go to the Tm1 social group on LinkedIn, pop your questions in there and we can continue this conversation. All right, so if you don't know me, my name is Phil. I've been working with Continuum for the last 13 years, providing a range of Tm1 resource solutions to brands across the world. In addition, providing some advice around market insights or trends that's going on in the world, helping you all capture the best Tm1 teams that you can possible. Couple of things on, I guess, why I work with Tm1. Firstly, is all of you lot. To be honest, you're just a complete inspiration to me. The enthusiasm, the excitement, the passion, and the loyalty to this great product that you all work with excites me every time that I speak to you. It's great. Secondly, a little fact. I was actually born the same year that Simpa took Tm1 to the PC Expo in New York and announced Tm1 as a product. So I find that pretty cool. So 1983 for anyone that doesn't know that. So 37 years this wonderful product has been going and is still fighting strong in the world, which people are a little fickle these days. So it's good to see. Outside of that, Tm1 Social has been born, I guess, due to COVID. I've had a bit more time on my hands, being at home, trying to escape the 3 children that run around my feet most of the time these days, and decided to come up with something that we can try and give back to the community a little bit. So I'm always having conversations with people about how excited they are, wanting to share their stories, and when I guess they're met with my excitement and my passion, they express that they don't often get a chance to meet too many people outside of their network. So here we are, connecting the world, and allowing you all to connect with some new people. All right, I'm going to leave you now with Rob, so he'll do you a little intro about him. Rob is our first regional leader for the Tm1 social group. So he's going to be very much involved in this group. And if you are interested in either presenting or want to be a bigger part of this group from wherever you are in the world, please reach out to myself and Rob, and we can have a chat about how we get you involved. All right. So for now, thank you for listening to me waffle on. I'll pass you to Rob, and we'll get on to the main event after that.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody first of all. I think it's some echo. I'm just attending. I know it's everybody's time is valuable, so I really appreciate it. Just echoing what Phil said about the community. I think COVID has taught us a lot, but it's also it gives us an opportunity to kind of build connections in a different way. We have come together, and Phil and I, like over the last month, and discussed a lot of ideas of how do we want this to be, and I think it's a very exciting opportunity for all of us to kind of learn from each other and kind of build a knowledge sharing base that we can kind of share ideas with each other. A little bit about myself. I'm South African born. I've been in the US now for 7 years, about a decade's worth of Tm1 experience. Been working with Bushan, who's going to be the presenter, for about 1.5 years before, and also was part of the core Uber group for a while. Recently joined back at Proficient and doing consulting there. Yeah, so I guess one of my key things that I wanted to get out of the group is we had the opportunity to kind of explore some of it with the addition of Tm1 with the APIs, explore what the art of the possible is. And we want to kind of share our knowledge as well. And I want to share some of my knowledge with the group. And if anybody has any specific questions of how they can kind of elaborate on it, I'm more than happy to help with that as well. So with that, a little bit of a sneak peek at what Uber has been doing. Bushan is Bushan is what 10 years of Tm1 experience as well. He's been kind of leading the charge on the planning and forecasting side at Uber. So Bushan, thank you so much for taking the time to prepare the demo. Thank you so much.
All right. Yep. Let me share my screen. So as Rob said that, I worked with him for quite some time, and whatever we have at Uber, which is much of effort from Rob, it's amazing. That was the first thing that I said to Rob when I joined. And the bar is always high, and we try to innovate a lot of stuff at Uber, and that's how we go. So let me start with the demo, and we'll get into the details, and let's keep it more conversational. I know you guys will have a lot of questions. How are we managing things? So I'm happy to answer all of them. So just to start with the demo, we are Uber, and we have 75 million riders registered with us with 3 million drivers. We have completed 10 billion trips worldwide, and we operate in 65 different countries with 600 plus cities worldwide. And for a day, we almost complete 15 million trips, and this is data as of 2019. Just to give you, insight about like where we operate. So rides is our primary business, but we are also into Eats. We are into freight management. We have autonomous group where we are working, which is more research and development for autonomous rides. And lastly, we are also experimenting some elevates as well. Okay. So about myself, I am Bhushan Barulekar. As Rob said, I've been working with Uber for more than 1.5 years now, and started off with a forecasting process, and now it's pretty much like, and we have been completed like around more than 15 forecasting cycles at Uber, and it has become more of a center stage application at Uber with a lot of things happening, and which I'll cover shortly. About myself, I have been working on solving business problems, primarily with Tm1 technology, but also with other technologies as well. The one thing that I love about Tm1 is like it helps me to solve problems simply. With that, whatever that I'm going to show over here, it is a collaboration between product, engineering, and data science and finance team. We work together closely to solve the business problems and bring out the financial planning and reporting at Uber. Okay. All right, so just to give you a background about few of the key applications that are operating at Uber, there are like 4 key applications. One is the planning application, another one is forecasting or LRP application. The next one is the reporting, and the platform and infrastructure. In planning, we, as you all know, will be doing strategic planning, and we do it bottoms up, and this is done every year. Forecasting application initially started off with a very high level, as a guidance to understand that how we are deviating from our plan. But now it is like more granular. And in fact, it has become more of a process at Uber that we follow every month. And we are merging our planning and forecasting application into one. So it is at same grain at what we are doing our planning. And lastly, we have reporting, which is basically taking all this data from different servers and pushing it into a reporting where we have a bunch of other applications which pull the data from the reporting server. I have also put down platform and infrastructure because like that is one of the application which is really good. And because we have done a bunch of things over there, which includes integration with GitHub and Jenkins. I'll talk about them in a bit, but to just give you the coverage of the data that we are, managing, we have around like 23 LOBs, 350 cost centers, 397 entities, and around 1,920 locations. In all total, other than these key applications, there are other main applications as well. So we have total of around 9 apps. We get around 200K worth of requests per month. And for 50 percentile of time, the response time is 6 milliseconds. And for 90 percentile, it is around 900 milliseconds. These are few of those applications, and I'm pretty much sure Rob and Gaurav did present about these applications during Thing 2019. They have done a really good deep dive on these applications, but I will not be getting into them. But these are some of the applications that we have integrated with Tm1, and they are live sitting on Tm1. And as we, like the data flow is back and forth using this application, and it is pretty much used day in and out, especially, the reporting solution and the headcount management solution day in and out at Uber every month. For GitHub and Jenkins, we do have GitHub integrations. We do have repos for staging and master, where everything is managed via, code migrate. We do have review process for the code that we push to production, and all the migrations that happen to production are live. And we do that using Jenkins. So it's everything well managed in the back end using all these things together, tying up together, and giving a complete solution to finance as reporting server. Just to get into the like what the forecasting application before we jump on to month to week. This is essentially this pretty much same application that you might be aware or you might be using. But we have added few other additional things in forecasting application. The first one is like, we see it in the actuals, we, pipe them before the forecast is begin so that finance gets the trend of how the data is looking. But what we also do is we have our data science team, which has different models which are working to predict our eats and rides, key metrics. We do also pipe them in Tm1 in an automated fashion using various data pipelines. And we have built an integrated Tm1 integrator, which kind of without any manual efforts pulls in this data on scheduled basis directly from Hive and Presto tables. So that is one good thing over there. And the next one is the P&L line items, which is basically your, the queue which we have enabled for users to do an input. And this is more of like an input layer where user can just directly go and pick up any level of information and start doing the, data inputs. And these are essentially for top line adjustments or any spread of numbers that users wants to do. But along with that, what we have is we have different models which are working behind the scene for different OpEx and cost models. So for OpEx, what we are doing is we have different headcount, contingent, and spend models, which does their own calculation to come up with the headcount cost. And this is all piped into the P&L. Along with that, we have 18 different cost models, which basically helps us to compute systemically the cost that we require for our P&L to get populated. We are trying to standardize all these and come up with a solution which is more of like automated P&L. So by Workday 2, you have your P&L automated without even manual intervention. The only thing is that finance user would then have to do is go and calibrate those numbers in order to get those P&L numbers right. So that is one of the good areas that we are working at. And the last piece, which is one of the biggest one, in fact, is the allocations. We have more than 100 allocation rules that we have enabled on forecasting. this is schedule-based allocation, which keeps running and pushing all the values that we feed in to different LOBs and different departments. One thing that I would highlight over here, this is a monthly process, and we just have like 6 to 7 days to put all these things together. So a tighter coordination and a schedule is required, and everything is happening live. So as users are changing their numbers, they are seeing the cost is getting computed, and after a certain time, they are seeing their numbers getting allocated. So this has to be properly managed and organized along with a wider community. And we just have like 6 to 7 days to do this. So this is really cool. Now, once you have your top line, which is basically your trips and GBs that are populated at a forecast for a monthly level, then is the next step is our month to week conversion. This is not I haven't added this slide over here by mistake. I have added it purposely so that I can like highlight about the level of information or the volume of the data that we are collecting is really very high. We are having like 15 million trips per day. And when we are talking about month to week conversion, we are talking about increasing our data size from month to a day level, which is really very high. And because we have so much amount of data and we have so much amount of information, it is important for finance to to not just look at at the month level, but also have ability to drill down and understand what is happening at a week level. And this was the ask that came to us, and understanding all these factors, we thought of like, yeah, fine, let's take this up and see how we can do this in Tm1. As I told you, it's like 6 to 7 time frame process. It is really difficult to take this offline and use some engineering tool set to come up with a conversion mechanism and push it back to Tm1. And because we have allocations and then we have different schedules which does reporting as well, so it becomes difficult to take this offline and compute and bring it back to Tm1. Before we jumped on and started any development, this was the thing that we were thinking and trying to understand that right now we have our trips which are coming at monthly level. We have DS models that can provide us weights at a weekly level. It would be pretty easier for us to just go and convert these trips into weekly way, right? But then we thought like, what does a finance data analyst want, right? And this is something which we always do, to take a step back from the problem that is presented to us and then try to understand what exactly they're asking for. And the answer is pretty simple. They want more data. So if we would have solved this problem for a weekly level, it would have been not longer that we would have wanted to have data at a daily level. And that is the reason why we thought that it is better for us to convert this to a daily level instead of weekly level, and weekly will be just one of segue point for us to bring this back data at a weekly level. And I was pretty much right about that, because like in few months back, we do now also go to a daily level, and we do reporting at a daily level as well. So when this problem was presented to us, there were like few constraints that I would like to highlight and understand, like why this was critical and, what are these constraints. So the first one, as I mentioned, it was time. It had to be quick turnaround. The second one was the volume, because the data is now increasing from month to week to day. The data size is increasing exponentially. Managing that in Tm1 is that's something which was I was trying to understand and see how that is going to be possible. And it's just not about volume at a particular currency level. We do also have flexing that works dynamically on our cubes, and that means you just multiply the current data set at month, week, and day level multiplied by 7-8 times based on the number of rates that we have. Along with that, as users change their number in planning, in the forecasting cube, your month to week number should change, or else when the syncs are happening, the data in your forecast at a month level is different, and at the week level it is different. So we needed this model to be live, and it should convert automatically on the fly. So I was a little bit skeptical about using rules versus TIs, but there was no other option than to use rules to do this. And lastly, again, the scale, and this is something which is pretty, I remember this based on my old colleague saying me about, that the one thing that is permanent at Uber is change. So I can't just build this application with current requirement that I got, but kind of like have this logic decoupled from that particular requirement, and we have certain metrics. So that's the thought process that I was having when I was kind of designing this particular application. And lastly, how can I make this application simple enough for a finance user to understand what is happening, and he can have an ability to trace back to the numbers to reach to a monthly level. So that is something which I wanted to have. So, and I have put that in green because I believe that if finance is able to trace back their numbers, and they understand, and it is simple, you have a lot of adoption that is happening on that particular application. So keeping all these constraints in mind, we thought of how difficult this would be. So let's unwrap the complexity. And this is in a nutshell, like I'm not getting into too much of details, but on a high level, we have trips that is coming at a monthly level. And then you have your gross booking, which are updated on a monthly level as well, right? Getting average fare out of this at a monthly level would be pretty simple as a simple calculation like this, where average fare will be GB by trips. Once you have your average fare at a monthly level, and using the data science weights, that is basically your trips at a daily level, you can just multiply and get your daily level GB, right? It is very simple. And then we can use Tm1 natural consolidation to just consolidate those days to a weekly level, right? And I thought like this is pretty simple. It's not that too complicated, right? But then it is not, right? And I'll explain you in a bit about this why. So on this particular graph, I'm showing gross bookings, which are more of like flat line, because your average fare, which you calculate at a monthly level, is flat. So using the data science spread of the trips and your average fare, when you get your GBs, those are like flat lined. And then you will see those spikes of drops, and again, spike going up back again, and using this more of like a flat line chart instead of a nice smooth curve. This is the problem of using, a monthly level data and just trying to use it at the daily level. And to have a nice smooth graph, there are certain techniques. What we have done at Uber is we have used a technique which is called as linearization. What that essentially means is what we do is we take our fare and we linearize using a bunch of different steps and have a smooth curve of how that particular GB is happening over a period of time. There are like few of these, just to give you an example, like how this is basically done is you have GB in one particular month, and you have a GB of, you have an average fare in a month one, and you have an average fare for the month two. Your average fare on a particular data point or on a particular day can go linear in a linear fashion from that particular data point to the data point in the next month in a linear fashion, right? So to do that, ideally, we need to have something of an equation which says like y is equal to mx plus c, which is basically a line graph, so that you can have those data points plotted correctly on that particular graph, and it is increasing linearly. Either it is going up if your average fare is going up, or if it can go down linearly back again if it is going down. And that's how you will see the graph once the average fare is converted at using a linearization method at a daily level. This is how you will see your average graph going up and down. Okay, I'm just checking the time, how much time I have left. All right, so this is all the theory of how the month-to-week logic is actually working in the nutshell. But I'll be hopping on to the demo. in a bit. I'm going to exit out of the presentation and I'm going to load this demo from my local system. Okay. All right. So on my screen, what I have is, PAW dashboard, where we can see, like your monthly trips, which are presented over here in the left side, and then weekly trips, which are presented over here. And I have ability to toggle between what regions I want to see this particular data. And based on the weights methodology, your trips are getting linear, are getting converted to a daily way. So you can see your trips at a monthly level, at a weekly level, and also at a daily level. And you can also see the seasonality, how your trips are picking up the pace. And during the weekend it is going up, and then it's coming down over on Sundays. So that's how you are seeing, and especially you can see the trend following same way for the GBs as well.
For clarification, GBs is gross bookings for everybody that doesn't know.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. Okay. So yeah, it is gross bookings, and as Rob said, so over here I have put down a GB chart, and what I'm trying to show over here is there are the techniques that we have used for converting our average fare using linearization method. Building something grounds up, basically having that linearized fare at a daily level. And multiplying it with the trips at the daily level, and building that grounds up and going at the month level. And the calculation that you have at the month level will never match, right? Because you're building that grounds up. There will be some delta that will be there. And what we are going to do with that delta is our last step, which is we take that delta and we spread it across again based on the weights that we already have identified for that particular calculation, right? So what I'm showing over here is the model, how it is working. It is pretty accurate. And then I'm selecting the adjustment amount. Is exactly what we are doing is once we calculate our, like GBs at daily level, gross bookings at daily level, we'll roll it up at the month level, but then there is a delta. And now I have to use this delta to push it down to do the adjustments. And as you can see, the delta is not more than even $200. And oscillating between $50 to $200. So the model is pretty accurately working, and it's actually going and doing the right thing. And all this logic of this step function, we call it as smoothing function and linearization and weights function, all these functions are developed in Tm1. What I have tried to do is I have tried to take out I've decoupled these calculations so that you can actually use matrix, and you can use these as a service. And I'll explain to you in a bit about how I've done that. And over here, you can see, the adjustment graph, and you can see if I am going back at the total level, my PL plan amount, which is the model output of the calculation at a daily level, is actually accurate. And it's not even showing me a big of a jump between the adjustments. With this, I'll hop on to the back end. And I would like to highlight over here, this is the cube where the magic is happening of month to week. It is in single cube, and it is rule based. You will see how fast it is as well. And what I have done is basically, we have our entire chart of accounts over here. And as you can see, what I have done is I have actually converted every account sitting in that particular net inflow hierarchy. And I have converted that using gross bookings. So the gross bookings is the primary account because that's our driver for linearization. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to show you how I have set up the hierarchy for month dimension, and using the natural consolidation, I'm driving all the consolidations at the weekly level. So if you see over here, what the first hierarchy is our month hierarchy, which is going down to the month level. The second hierarchy is essentially going to the month, and then from month it is going to a day level. So we have our daily data sitting over here. And the next one, this is more of like a reporting, but it's a weekly hierarchy. But there's an alternate hierarchy, which is a weekly hierarchy, which is going from a particular week, starting week, to all the days rolling up to that particular week, so that your natural aggregation will give me a resultant weekly data. All right. So for the demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep, only, yeah. And one more thing before we get into the details on that, I did point out the constraint of having ability for user to, understand and simply know what is happening under the hood. So just looking at this particular view, user will understand whether his conversions are happening 100% correctly or not. If there is any difference between completed trips or net inflows, that means the conversion is not happening correctly. And this is kind of flags user out, like there is something, off, and then he can go and investigate. And I can show you that also in a bit, like how we can actually go and investigate. What we have here is like, you have, I'm going to select only month and a day hierarchy. And I'm going to do a recalculate, and I'm going to bring weights that I talk about and the linearization metrics that I talk about. And I'm going to show, how we are doing using weights to distribute our trips at a daily level, and, and how I'm using weights for GB, and using linearization, how I'm converting them at a daily level. So over here, what I'm doing is I'm drilling down at the day level. So for Q1, that's my actual, but actually my data starts from May onwards. And you can see that we have uploaded data science weights in completed trips over here. And those are pretty much there. And based on these weights, we have converted our completed trips over here. On gross booking, you can see our average fare sitting over here. It is flat lined because previous to this, there is actual. So we don't have that. So that's the reason it pegs flat. That is $218 over here. But as you can see, from 16th onwards, the data starts linearly increasing. And if I have to jump on to the next month, you will see the data is going till 21. So that's the linear function that I'm talking about. And using that particular linear function, I can either linearly go and increase my average fare, or linearly decrease my average fare. And that is done via system directly in Tm1. And once I do all my calc, I go back and also do the adjustments. So my amount is actually a consolidation, and it is, it's not a bare leaf element. So I'll show you over here. Yeah. So amount is actually a consolidation, which will have the calculated value based out of the output of the model. And it will also have the adjustments which are done on top of those things. So going back, I have a screenshot. Let me go back to the presentation back again. So yeah. Okay, so on the screen over here, you can see I have also created a placeholder for a flat amount, average fare. And you can see the data between the computed model and this is pretty different. As your numbers grow bigger, that is trips or GBs, this will amplify, and that will give us those gaps between, your average GB calculation at month and at, at a particular day level. And that is the reason why we have to use those linearization technique. Moving on, the last piece was the simple part. And if there is any change, how are we going to accommodate that without having to do additional work or efforts? So what I did is basically I created all this mechanism and the decoupling of the logic and created this config cube. So tomorrow, if you want to, add another metric or another GL that you want to use some technique and push it from month to a particular day level, you will be able to do it just by using this cube and without writing any special code for that. And I can show you, I can give you a basic idea about that, how this works. So what we did is we used completed trips and we used methodology that is weights. The metric itself is called as completed trips. So what system is going to do is it's going to take those weights and it is going to, push based on those weights, is going to push those trips down at daily level. This 4115 is our gross booking account. So that is a calc, calc is basically a linearization technique. So what system will do is it will take that linearization technique, and I have given them an ability to toggle between multiply or divide. So if I put multiply, what it is going to do is it's going to take that technique. I'm so sorry. It's going to take that account and the metric that you want to divide or multiply it with. So if it is multiply, it will divide that at a month level, and system will then linearize that using the linearization model that I have built, and it will multiply it with the completed trip. And this is the output. This is the exact output from the cube. So any user or a power user can understand what he is doing even before it is done, right? And another part of this particular configuration, which is pretty cool, is now once I calculate my GB at a daily level, I can then use that particular metric as weights. So what I've done over here is all the other accounts, I want to use GB as a metric. So you will see I'm using a consolidated element gross booking, and I'm using that as a weight and not linearization. So I'm using it as a weight, and I'm spreading it across at the daily level. So this cube kind of like helps me to pick and choose any metric, play with it, and then convert it without even writing any piece of code. So I hope I'm on time on this. But if you are pretty much interested in any data science model that we already have, or any other information, we do have our engineering over web URL that I have put over here, and we have a bunch of information and the tools that we are using for data science and how we are converting and how we are integrating with different systems on this particular blog. So I will encourage you guys, if you are more interested, just go ahead, hit this blog. You will find a whole bunch of good stuff over here. With this, I'll conclude my presentation, and any questions?
Awesome, Roshan. That was good stuff. You mind stop sharing for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a couple of questions in the chat, so if people just can go up and upvote some questions before we get into it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Roshan. Just a couple of housekeeping questions. Would you be able to post some of these kind of data science topics and things without going to that engine Uber? Could you just post some things on the group?
Sure, definitely. If we have some information, specific information that we are looking for, I'll be happy to post them if they are publicly available. Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, good job, man. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bhushan.
Yeah, sure, Phil.
Alrighty. So, what do we got here? Top question. What applications other than Tm1 are you using in your solution? I can see the interface is a complete custom one. Do you use any standard packages to work with the REST API like Tm1 Pi? Thanks, Dennis.
Yeah. Rob, do you want to answer this one, because you were pretty much involved in this particular application? Or else I can do that too.
No, either way. If you want to take it, I can take it. Otherwise,
yeah.
So yeah, on the custom interfaces, we did use a lot of different technologies. We did the backend. We used Node.js, and then from a front end application side, we used React and Redux mostly. And then with the APIs, you can just easily pull the data out. So what we found with like the front end apps is it's actually super fast using the APIs, much faster than what we would have expected, even from like a Cognos BI or something. It wasn't even comparable. We actually looked at implementing Cognos, and the performance and the look and feel was really not relatable. And then from other things, we use the APIs in terms of moving data across different applications. Everything from allocations to, like I said, data syncs to archiving data. We actually archive data to S3. The application is built in AWS. So what we do with archiving is we just have some scripts running in the back end that pulls data out and upload it into S3. So from the API section, it opens up so many doors that it's about where your imagination can take you. You can pull data out of Tm1 easily, and you can even do calculations with that data. It's normal scripting. It does make you think a little bit further outside the box of what's possible. And I think the final point I wanted to make on the APIs was it also makes it possible for you to have like a more distributed system, because you can easily now share data across. And I said the final one, which it wasn't. We also, Uber also has automated testing involved. So you can create test scripts within your model with using the APIs and test different data points across the systems. And if there's a data point that's missing or that's not equal to the other one, which you're kind of expecting there to be similar, you can kick off some sort of email alert or something along those lines. So there's multiple avenues you can take the APIs to. It's about where your creativity can take you, right? It's just getting your hands dirty, and once you get your hands dirty, it's like the world's oyster.
Yeah. And to add to what Rob said, and this is something, if you guys get recording for the Think, that was a pretty cool one, because it's just not about having a custom UI on top of TM1, but adding different dashboard widgets using TM1 is something was pretty cool that what we have over here. So we can add on the fly any widgets on TM1 using metrics that we have in the cube, and that gets added automatically on the UI.
All right, thanks, Roshan. Okay, so next question is from Take. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe. How do you make TM1 to load such a large data set without compromising on performance?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and it comes when you're actually talking about performance. It comes to design, how you are actually designing things. There are certain places where it's a trade-off, where we have to understand that, okay, this is a huge data set and we can't just write rules on top of this and then we have to use TIs. But there are certain business constraints there where you have to use a rule and you have to use certain way or a logic for having an optimized data. So for month to week, where I have used such a volume of data, I was pretty skeptical in terms of like using rules for this kind of conversion. However, we do, just to give you a background about, we do have different flexing and conversions that happen on our data. And there are like more than 7 to 8 different rate types. And all these things happen on the fly. So the conversion and the logic did not took a lot of time, a lot of I'd say performance. And what I did is I added something called as a near real time kind of an approach instead of completely real time. And that gave me a little bit boost in terms of utilizing the underneath power of feeders and just fly with the model. However, there are like key flexing that were needed pretty much on the fly. So we had to do it certain rate types. But for the rest of the ones, I used to do it using a TI. And when the sync was happening, I used to add it to the sync so that it is actually properly correctly reported. So it depends upon how you want to design your application, how you want to address those business needs, and what kind of an optimization that you can bring, whether you want 100% real time, you want it like near real time, or you want it like offline by using certain TIs or some things like that. But TM1 pretty much supports all of that.
Awesome. All right. Question here from Syed, hack out of Sydney. So are you using parallel processing for such a huge data volume? And what are the challenges that you face and how have you resolved them?
Yes, we do use parallel processing, especially when you have to move data between servers. And with such a large amount of data, it is not that straightforward. We do use parallel processing to answer to that question. And there are challenges when you use parallel processing, and those are essentially how you communicate with those users that it's completed or it's not completed, right? Things like that. And as we know, there are benefits of using parallel processing because it is an async method and not a sync method. So you will not even, at the end of the day, you will not know that it is completely 100% completed. But again, based on what use case we want to use this, you can actually do, async versus, the sync one.
Awesome. And I'll just, before we continue, I'm pretty sure you can reach out to Bhushan or to lesser extent myself if you have any questions specific to how the model works, maybe as a further deep dive, or once again post it on the group, and maybe we can get some more answers in there as well. So the next one is from Will. Hey Will, hope you're doing well. How did the forecasting model respond to unexpected impact on COVID? I can take this one quickly.
Oh
Right?
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Something at the end. Well, the forecast model, at least the Tm1 side, it kind of works as expected, right? So we get the weights in there from the completed trip side, and the model kind of just figures that out by itself. The problem is more in the data science models. And the data science team had to kind of do a lot more work in the back end. So they did a lot of prediction based upon studies that either is going through that or did go through that, and made a lot of assumptions on how different studies are going to get to that, as quote unquote weighted percentage on the daily level. And then obviously on average fare and things like that as well. Prashant, I'm not sure if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, so with COVID, the data science numbers weren't that great. So we do have like EATS was using weights methodology, which is data science completely based out of data science. We had to tweak our methodology a bit and use a linearization versus weights. And that really, just by configuring those metrics back in the cube helped us to do that pretty easily. So that's how we managed it. Because we now have the toggle between switching between different kind of models that we want in Tm1 directly. Yep.
Excellent. All right. So Paul's posted a question there. I think St. Keith has answered that below. If you just want to confirm that, Prashant, or add anything to that. So his question was, what version of Tm1 are you using, PA or on-prem or cloud? And what UIs are you using, perspectives versus Tm1 web versus PAX or PA?
Yeah. So Rob, do you want to take from the custom side? I can talk about Tm1 prem side if you need.
Sorry, I zoned out for a second. No, what is the question?
So yeah, no worries. I'll take this one if you want. So yeah, we do have on-prem. We have it hosted on AWS on Linux box. So our Tm1 is hosted on AWS, and we are running on planning analytics. We do use a bunch of UIs, basically Tm1 Web and PAW. We are exploring PAW right now. It is pretty limited to like the admins and super users who are using them right now for now. And going forward, we are expecting to expand that to other users as well. For custom UIs, as Rob mentioned, we are using a bunch of technologies, that is React and Node.js as a middleware, and we are using APIs for interacting with Tm1. Anything
more specific on what version of Tm1 and Tm1 Web we're on. So I think that's good. Thanks, Prashant. Okay, so next question is from Andrew. Hey Andrew, hope you guys are doing well there in Oz and staying safe. From a workflow perspective, how does the team engage with the data science team, and can you go into some specifics around how the data and forecasting tasks are shared between Tm1 and data science environments? So essentially, if I can wrap up on this question, talk about the working relationship between how the teams work with the data scientists, and then how do you kind of share information? How does the data science team get data from Tm1, and how does it get it back again into the data science models?
Yeah, this is really good question, especially with the weights. And we started pretty much working very closely with data science team because and this was on daily basis essentially, because the COVID, we had to actually understand what the regional operational guys are forecasting, take that data back in, feed it back into the model so that the model starts understanding that and spitting out the numbers back again and load it back again in Tm1. So our conversions are happening correctly. So there was a pretty much back and forth, especially with COVID, we had to work tight hands in terms of like getting this correctly done within the 5 to 6 days. But we do have automated pipelines. So the data pushing and pulling is pretty straightforward. It's not complicated. The only piece is how are we going to time this and at what cadence this is going to happen was pretty important, and we had to work very closely with data science, who are located in San Francisco too.
Excellent. All right. So, Graham, good day to you, mate. What is your forecasting accuracy using the models, and which model is the most effective He's put in there DS models, P&L models, or OPEX, etc.
Yeah. So again, this is a good question, and before I won't talk now after COVID, because that's completely a different data set altogether. I will talk about forecasting accuracy before COVID, and we were pretty close with most of the countries where we had a whole bunch of data and understanding for past 1.5 year, and it was close to 99 point something for most of the countries, and in some countries, in fact, we were beating the forecast accuracy versus what the operational guys or the on the floor guys were forecasting. So it was pretty accurate at that time.
I'll add to that. It got to a point where the finance team was happy to accept it without doing any adjustments on top of that.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a big step into the right direction. So it's obviously happened at a strange time for Uber, but at that point in time, at least, the idea was to just accept the numbers as is. So they got pretty close to accuracy.
Absolutely. And regarding the model information, I will have to check back what models and what optimizations that they were running. And if I'm okay, I mean, if it is more public, then I can come and post it on the LinkedIn group. I will do that. Just take that as a point.
All right. Okay. So next question: how we will be maintaining the period dimension? How will we be maintaining the period dimension that might be massive over some years? So obviously using like the days in your time dimension. How do you see that kind of expanding, and how will you maintain that more from a maintenance perspective?
So we do have our generic kind of TIs that has helped us to build the TI dimension, but it's just not the dimensions that are attributes to, right? Like, and the whole the maintenance activity is automated completely. So we keep building. Once all the data is cooked up, used for the forecasting, we do have monthly snapshotting processes. So we snapshot our data and we have it archived into a reporting server. Once a particular year is completed, we take out the data and we archive it into S3 bucket as well. So our cube is pretty light at that time, with not much of data sitting there other than past 3 trailing months of data. So that way we do keep maintenance, and this is yearly one-time activity that we have to do, and which is automated using TIs, basic TIs, and some REST TIs too. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Next question from Marius. Hope you're well, Marius. How much history do you guys store in your models, and do you have a data archiving policy?
Yes. We do have a whole bunch of data which is live, because we do go back and forth in terms of like pulling the data. So the reporting server is like a very critical server to us in terms of like not just looking at the live data set, but also historical ones. And Rob can give you more, he can chime in more on this as well. But we do also have an external data source where we store information, and we have we are going in those directions where we can pull up some kind of a Tableau kind of a dashboards, and we use SDFS kind of environment. We call that as FDS, where we have Hive tables and Presto tables where we store a very large volume of data.
Alrighty. Where are we? Mohit, how does your users, finance that is, who can't live without Excel and cube views, access cubes across the globe? Do you use Citrix or a local install or PAX? And what is the performance and satisfaction level?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good question. I mean, what measuring satisfaction level in terms of like performance is always very tricky, right? But then we do have remote desktops, and we do have users accessing remote desktop, which is hosted on AWS, which is kind of like Citrix too. And users can directly go and start using their Excels on top of that, right? For web, the performance is pretty good, especially in US. It's excellent. Outside of US as well, we haven't seen any users complaining on Tm1 Web at all. Like, we have a bunch of applications which are working smoothly on Tm1 Web. We have an internal application which is called as budget application transfer, BTA transfer application, which is working pretty smoothly, and it's purely hosted on Tm1 Web and PAW, and all the users across globe are using that application. So I don't see any performance related issues, and all this, even the Tm1 Web, PAW, are all hosted on AWS.
Excellent. All right. I think Rob might have frozen up, so I'll keep going. Brett, hope you're well. Are you using alternate hierarchies? Seems maybe not, but given you are using PAW, is there a reason why not?
Yeah, excellent question here. We do use alternate hierarchies, and we do use it for a specific use case, right? Alternate hierarchies right now are not enabled on perspectives, and most of our users, they are Excel and perspective users, right? So having them onboarded on like alternate hierarchies on perspective, it's not possible. Packs, they are not there yet, but there are a lot of bunch of users who are using perspective. Having someone go on PAW, for that I have to make PAW completely equal to perspective, right? And which is, I mean, they have a roadmap and we are getting there, but it is not perspective, right? So this is one of the primary reasons why we haven't used alternate hierarchies, because users, if they have to use any perspective or create their own templates per se, because there are a lot of power users who do interact with Tm1 and they want to use Tm1 perspectives to interact with that, right? So they cannot use perspectives, they have to go to PAW to use that. So that is one of the reasons why I have not used the alternate hierarchies in Monterey. However, we have used alternate hierarchies where we have certain kind of metrics. We call them as deduping logic, where we don't want to double count certain things at certain level. And for that, we have used alternate hierarchies.
Thanks for sharing. All right.
I think we're across 7, so we want to do a last one, and then we can see if we can answer the questions maybe on the group.
Yeah, sounds good. So Girish, what are the outbound integrations from the model, and how is it dealt in PA?
To understand this question, you mean like how are we integrating our Tm1 application with other custom applications? Maybe I'm not getting the question. Sorry.
Girish, are you there?
It's a summer note to end it on. But yeah, Bishop, thank you so much, and I appreciate taking the time. It's really insightful. And as I mentioned earlier, I think Bishop is, if you want to reach out to him on LinkedIn or something, please do that. I'm sure he can answer the questions one-on-one. Yeah, if you have any questions for me or Phil as well, please reach out. And then we are looking for more presenters. We're trying to do this like every 2 weeks. So if anybody is interested in presenting something or something interesting they've done, please reach out to us. That would be awesome. Phil, I'm not sure if you have anything to add.
No, look, other than that, look, I guess just a massive thanks to Bashan, right, for doing the first demo. So I know that's a lot of courage there. So thank you very much, and the rest of the guys at Uber and girls that have helped in putting this together and continuing it through. So that's great. I guess, Rob, I just want to say a massive thanks to you. Obviously, I came to you with this idea a few weeks ago, and you've been an integral part in helping us get to this point. So really appreciate it, mate. And look forward to many more. But yeah, other than that, thank you everyone for coming. Seems that we've held your interest for the full hour, so that's great to see. And yeah, again, the LinkedIn group, Tm1 Social, reach out to myself or Rob if you can't find it or you can't find access to it, and we'll invite you in. But yeah, feel free to share anything at all on there. So if you've got any questions, whether it's relevant to this demonstration or in general, I'm sure there's people that help out on that. If you want to share any educational material, any case studies, if you've got ideas on what you would like to see in a demonstration coming up, then we'll go and find a presenter that can potentially do that for you. But yeah, other than that, just a massive thanks for everyone coming up. So I think we got to 87 participants. So for the first webinar, I'm pretty stoked with that. Yeah, look forward to catching up with you all soon.
Definitely. I also encourage everyone to, keep doing these presentations, keep sharing. It's fun. We all love Tm1. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. I'll shave it off for you, and I'll deliver it to you. You can keep it as a souvenir.
Definitely. Thanks, Will. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.
We'll have to do a live session at some point, right? We'll get together. So hopefully this is the first conference.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll get to you. There's only one person traveling that way. Unless you want to come here, obviously. I'm sure we can find plenty of people in Australia. Awesome. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Sorry, I'll cut you off.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining. That's awesome. It's good attendance, so really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.